Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Rubin, and I'm very excited to be talking to you today on behalf of Terry Lind and the organization for helping you guys to move forward with your plan for your diabetes um, program and improving your diabetes condition. So I'm going to be sharing my screen here and doing my little dog and pony show, and I hope that you find it useful. So my name, as I said, is Ian Rubin, and I have been in the health and wellness field for quite some time. Sorry, taking a minute to get kind of settled here. The other thing I wanted to say is that I appreciate Terry inviting me to talk to you guys about my approach, which is a food story approach to health and wellness. And I do hope that this helps you to improve what you're going to be learning and doing with his program. All right, well, let's just kind of keep on moving. I've been doing this work for a long time, over 15 years, 20 years total in the health and wellness industry, during which time I did personal training, and I've done coaching for many, many years. I teach nutritionists also about this approach. So that's just a little bit about me. So the presentation is really about introducing you to this idea of food story, that we all have a food story. What is my food story? How does my food story affect me? So if you have done this, if you have asked for a plan, told a nutritionist or a naturopath or an acupuncturist or personal trainer, hey, give me a plan, or you've said, hey, I know what I should be doing, I know what I should be eating, but I need your help to be accountable or hold me to the program, then you're right where I suspect most people are coming from, at least the people that I've worked with over the years. So they ask these two things. The challenge is that even with the best plan, which I know you're getting your hands on a great plan, it can still be hard to be successful. And the honest truth is, if just having a plan or just having someone to keep you accountable was going to help you be successful, you would have probably already been that way by now. So that's what this is supposed to help with, is something extra and above and beyond that. And the reason why it's so important to understand food story is because it's being given to us or fed to us, if you will, by many, many different sources in our world. So obviously we have a lot of cultural beliefs and ideas and thoughts about food. What are we supposed to eat? What's good? What's bad? This is better for diabetes. This is better for blood control. This is better for weight loss. This is better for heart disease. There's a lot of confusion that's been given to us through our cultural system in terms of advertising, marketing, the health and fitness and wellness industry. And it can be, wow, it can be really overwhelming. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by this information, don't be surprised. So part of your food story comes from this cultural food story. The other piece, of course, of your food story comes from this emotional, this psychological relationship that we have with food. It's a very powerful part of our lives. And if we don't understand the important role that food plays in our lives because of this, we tend to think just with our front brain. We tend to think like scientists only about carbs and calories and cholesterol and portion control. And that isn't enough for most of us to have success with changing our diet for the long run. The other thing is, I call them cognitive challenges, just because it's not that we're not intelligent. We are all very intelligent people when it comes to this. I imagine some of you are more intelligent than I am, that you've read, hundreds of books about nutrition and dieting. And the idea behind this program is to give you what you need to be successful rather than trying to teach you everything under the sun. Because what we know is that less information often is better. So enough information to be effective, but not too much information. We don't want you to be getting an information overload or paralysis by analysis. And we want you to be able to take this information and actually integrate it into your lives so you can have long-term and permanent change in your blood sugar control, in your weight, in your food habits, in your health and well-being in general. So again, letting go of the idea that it's purely an intellectual pursuit, but allowing yourself to believe and understand that there's psycho-spiritual, emotional components, there's a cultural component. It's bigger than we thought it was. So don't beat yourself up just because you don't have motivation or intelligence or willpower. Think that that's all that there is. It's okay to feel into this experience. Okay, so my approach is this idea of food story. You'll hear me say food story. You'll hear me say relationship with food. They're much the same. They're kind of interchangeable to me. Your food story, everyone has a food story because everybody eats. Therefore, we all have thoughts and feelings and beliefs about food. And it's developed over many, many years, from childhood all the way through till today. It's still developing. Mine is still, developing and growing as I progress and through life. And it's telling me everything about how I should or should not interact with food, what I should eat, shouldn't eat, good for me, bad for me, how much, when, you name it. It's everything. And when we come to understand and work with our food story, it's a lot more helpful than just focusing on, the science of nutrition and just willpower and motivation. And I will do this and I'm going to do it, kind of white knuckle. So that's what food story is. And it's often getting in the way of your success because most people never even heard this idea. When I talk about it, they go, oh, that makes sense. Sure, I've got this relationship with food and it's kind of running in the background and it tells me what I should and shouldn't do. And yeah, I keep thinking of it as willpower or guilt or shame or all these other things. But no, you're right. It's this sort of internal narrative that keeps running, this tape that keeps running that tells me about food. And once we start to understand that it's there, we can really work with it and get it to help us instead of just continuing to hinder us. So your food story, as I said, there's a lot of components of food story, and where it came from, of course, this is sort of the cultural background, where you grew up, when you grew up, what time period, what ethnic background you came from, small family, big family. There's a lot of sort of big picture culture and then family unit culture and community culture, all of what sort of, originates your food story in terms of your family of origin, where you were, when you were there, how big of a family, etc. So, we didn't ask for this piece of our story, of course. It's just that it's been given to us over the years. Usually it's pretty well established by the time we're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And when we think about our earliest memories with food, often we're going to this food story. We're going to this family of origin food story that tends to carry a lot of power, a lot of influence in our lives. So it's important to be able to see this and understand it and know where it's coming from and understand that, it's not all you. You didn't make this whole food story up. You were given a lot of it. And so that's why for the parts that don't work, we have to realize that somebody else gave it to us, our parents, our caregivers, our local communities, whatever it was. And it's that part of our story, the parts of our story that don't work for us, that we want to be able to reflect on and say, okay, this isn't serving me, so it's time to change. Because again, you did not spring full forth from your parents and decide, this is how I think and feel about food. It's been gradually developing over the years. Of course, you, as I say, over the years, developed a personal relationship with food because of who you are. All the different parts of who you are make up your personal food story as they interact with your family of origin and as they interact with culture, the big picture culture. So I was a really skinny kid and I wanted to be buff. And so it was all about protein for me, so whatever it is, sugar is your best friend, or I ate vegetables because they were all boiled, or I had a big brother who ate all my food and I've always been hungry, so therefore I'm very possessive about my food. Could be 100 things. But it is good to just understand what it is about our relationship with food and our upbringing and our family that helps us to understand, okay, now I'm starting to get a sense of my story, and then I can sort of seat it inside of the cultural story, right? So now that we start to become aware of this, we can say, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. There's this story that keeps running in my head that keeps telling me this is how I should do things. This is how I should think and feel and act towards food. So whatever it takes to help you build that awareness, I want to encourage you to do that, okay? There's no rule here. I don't believe there's any right or wrong way to do it. So you just find a way to build awareness that you have a food story and get a sense of like, this is where it comes from in terms of your personal experience. So once we've done that, we want to look at it. We want to sort of analyze it and say, okay, wait a minute, as I think about this, why am I craving this food? Why am I having so much trouble with portion control? Why don't I make time to shop and cook and prep and do all the things that I know are good for me? How come I don't have motivation? And how come I keep relapsing? And how come I don't feel like I have the willpower to be successful? Oh, okay, I see. Okay, this is good. I'm aware of it now. I'm understanding it now. I'm sort of analyzing it and sort of getting a better sense of, okay, now it makes sense. Well, okay, because of this, that, and the other thing, it makes sense why I might be this way. The tricky part here is not to get judgy. Don't get out the wet noodle and, start beating yourself. you got to let yourself just acknowledge that, hey, this is how I feel about it. This is the emotions that come up when I talk about my food story to myself, because it's just the reality. There's nothing good or bad about it. It's not right or wrong. It's not a reflection on who you are as a person. It's just the nature of having a food story. So be careful about, shooting on yourself, blaming and shaming and saying I should or shouldn't feel this way about it. And, try to just let those feelings be there and sort of notice them. I know this is hard work for us as a rule, but noticing that it's just kind of there. Okay, it's there. Now what am I going to do about it? Because that's really the key, is we can't move forward until we can come to some sense of acceptance that this is the reality of what my food story is. And again, this doesn't mean acceptance in the sense of, well, that's just what it is, and I guess I got to suffer through it. And okay, I'll put up with my food story. Acceptance means that you acknowledge it for what it is. You see it for what it is. You're not overly attached to it. You realize that you're not alone, and that if you just could accept, in the sense of sort of like acknowledging this is what it is, okay, now I get the reality, it does in fact empower you and allow you to move forward and create change. So that's what I want you to be thinking about as you move forward into the big steps, of course, which is this big challenge, which is action steps. Of course, action steps are always the hardest part, but if you can see what your story is and you can accept it, just allow it to be what it is, then you can also say, okay, I get that that's what it is, and I still want to make some changes, right? Rather than getting into but it shouldn't be this way, and I wish it weren't this way, and how come it has to be this way? Be like, hey, look, it is this way, and I can still make some adjustments, and I can still change it. That's one of the ironies about acceptance that people don't realize. Because acceptance doesn't mean suffering through or just giving up or just being like, whatever, all right, I guess I'll accept it. But it truly means, okay, I get that this is what it is, and therefore, now that I'm not all torn up emotionally about it, I can, in fact, make action steps to improve it. Because you can rewrite your story. And as you rewrite your story one day at a time, you will start to see your behaviors shift and change, your feelings, your thoughts, everything will shift because you're working on your story. Then all this knowledge that you've built, all this information that you're getting from this program will start to slip into action in a much more smooth fashion. It'll just start to click into place. It won't feel so hard. Okay, so your guidelines are to just do whatever helps you become aware, watch out for the blame and shame game. While the nutrition information is helpful, don't get into information overload. Take the information that you're getting. It's probably sufficient. You don't need to know every single detail of every little bit there is to know about diabetes care and health. If you have questions, you can ask Terry and the team. They'll get it for you. But don't feel like you have to have a master's level of information and knowledge to be successful. Most people, more information doesn't help, okay? So then you can work within that nutrition plan, within the reality of your food story, and you can talk to your coach and you can say, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but this is what I'm capable of doing within my story. I'm realizing that my motivation gets eaten away when I do it this way or don't do it this way. Hey, can you work with me? Can you help me to sort of bridge the gap, right? So having your doctor, your nutritionist, your wellness professional, your personal trainer work to help you create change rather than only delivering information to you, then you will be much more successful, and your coach will be a lot happier that they don't have to keep giving you information, but notice that you're not using the information. Every coach wants you to be successful, and we give information because we think that'll help. You've asked that for us for it, and we think that you think it'll help, but we know that it won't in the long run. But if you know that more information won't help, but actually coaching and helping you work within this system will help, then we're going to be super happy to help you to do that. I'm running over my own tongue. Okay, so we're wrapping up. I'm trying to keep this brief as an intro. These are some resources that you can look at to have a better understanding of what I mean by food story and some of the other pieces within it. But really focus on this stuff. Work with Terry, work with the team, and have them help you to the extent that you can integrate your understanding of your food story, what works and what doesn't for you, into the nutrition plan that you have. All right? All right, best of luck. I'm going to stop the share and come to here and say if you have any questions or concerns. Obviously, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information, ian@ianrubin.com. If you have questions and concerns, if you need more help with food story, just let me know. Okay? Have a great day. Bye-bye.